Hi everybody, it's meteorologist Joe Chaffee here on the Joe Chaffee Weather Show on Thursday, the 18th of April, 2018. It's going to be another busy night of severe weather. So far today, I was just kind of skimming through Google News and checking to see how many tornadoes that have occurred. There are a few stories of tornadoes in Mississippi. Two National Weather Service confirmed tornadoes up in Missouri. So the count will be added to as we go through this evening and through the first part of tonight. We have 3 working tornado watches as of 7:30 Eastern Time. And I guess this is a good spot to remind everybody that if you're watching, please be advised that if you are seeing this on a replay later on tonight, that it is exactly that. So the radars and the satellites, but especially the radars, are going to be dated, so you want to make sure that you get the latest weather information, especially if severe weather is affecting your area, by going to your local National Weather Service Forecast Office website page, and you can get there by going to weather.gov. So why don't we take a look at what's going on with regards to the severe weather that's happening at the moment. And 3 working tornado watches up, and this is the large view of SPC's, the Storm Prediction Center's severe weather outlook with the radar echoes underneath it. We've the red box. We used to call them watch boxes because they used to draw them up as these rectangular, these parallelogram squares is how I guess is the best way to describe them, and I guess that's always stuck in the jargon of weather people. But we've got 3 working watch boxes up, one in Louisiana, and the other in Mississippi and in Alabama. And the thunderstorms, you can see them underneath, moving right along. The marginal risk going up into Kentucky and touching a portion of southern Indiana and southeastern Illinois. And of course, the severe weather threat's going to shift eastward for tomorrow. But we'll do first things first, and we're going to take a look at what's happening at the moment. So let's jump to. We'll go to the SPC. When you go on their website, if you click on mesoscale, you can pull up these maps of theirs, the mesoscale maps for all the different sectors, and it just makes things a lot easier because you can zoom in. Overlay the radar and the satellite and the surface map and everything else. And this is what we have going on. This is actually, it just refreshed a current radar. It refreshes on its own. And the surface map is from 7 o'clock Eastern Time. The area of heavy downpours and thunderstorms, you can see the 3 working tornado watch boxes that are up. And when we take a look at I'm going to put the surface obs up instead. And I mean, again, another situation here. You've got great Gulf inflow. There's a 1,002 low centered up in northwestern Mississippi. Near that low center, you've got temperatures that are actually in the 60s. And then you go north and west of there up into Arkansas, and you start to see some spots with temperatures in the 50s and upper 40s down in Missouri. So that's the cooler air that's coming in on the west side. In fact, we've got 50s all the way down into southwestern Louisiana, and that is this weather system, this low that is moving northeastward, is going to be the player here in the eastern states for Friday and Saturday. But meanwhile, you go down into the warm tropical air, and of course you've got temperatures in the upper 70s and low 80s and dew points in the low 70s. A pretty juiced up atmosphere here. Very, very solid southerly flow coming off the Gulf of Mexico and running northward into Alabama. And it's also setting the table now for severe weather possibilities for tomorrow as we move into Georgia, South, and North Carolina, beginning to saturate the atmosphere there, although the dew points are not quite there yet, but they have risen to the upper 50s and low 60s. So they are indeed on the way. I'm going to just hang on one second here, folks. I'm going to switch off for a moment. Let me just want to bring up weather.gov and take a look. We do have a number of special marine warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings that are up. And there are also earlier I happened to notice that there were a ton of flash flood warnings that were up for parts of Mississippi. So rain has been a big deal there. You got a large area up through the Mississippi Valley and into western Tennessee and Kentucky, southern Illinois, and Indiana with flood watches up. And indeed, you've also got flood watches up for the Northeast, which we'll get to. I just wanted to pull up the local office this is from Jackson, Mississippi. And the yellow there's your tornado watch. You've got the flood watches up. So where you see the tornado watch would take precedent. So if there was a tornado watch in the area where you also have the flash flood watch up at the same time, the tornado watch would be what you would see. And it's quite likely that there are other counties under this flood watch that might be lying underneath that tornado watch. The dark reds, those are all flash flood. The orange, I guess it's orange, those are all severe thunderstorm warnings. Don't see any tornado warnings right now as of 7:35, but we certainly did see them a bit earlier. Here's the radar view on the wider shot. So we can see the rain that runs up into western Tennessee, western Kentucky, into Indiana and Illinois, where we have all those flood watches up. And the line here of thunderstorms, that there's a bit of a curl to that. I wonder if there's probably some bowing that's going on if we were to look at this close up. We'll punch up a local radar, take a look at this. But there's some very strong cells here that are running now into western Alabama and down into southeastern Mississippi. I'm going to try and pull up, let's get the Jackson radar. And we'll get that. See if we can see anything. I'll run it down a bit further. It's hard to tell, of course, when you need to see the last frame. It's not available. Not good. Let's go further south and west of there. Now all those working special marine warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings, we do see that the area of storms is now moving off the coast of southeast Louisiana. It looks like the strongest activity as of this moment, 37 minutes after 7 o'clock Eastern time, into southeastern Mississippi, as we said, and moving on into southwest Alabama. Now back up to the radar, just show you the rain also extends up through Indiana, northwest Ohio. And here in the east, the rain area is arced up north of Lake Ontario and Lake Erie, and there's not a whole lot going on. Once you go out of central New York State, you got some scattered showers. You got some scattered showers going on in parts of New England, but there really isn't much of anything going on up and down the East Coast, which means that this system moving eastward is going to take its sweet time getting here. So we may have to, at least in my neck of the woods, it'll probably be overnight Friday night into Saturday afternoon as being the time when we're going to be dealing with some heavy rains and possible thunderstorms. And while we're there, we might as well just take a look at the fact that there are some showers coming up from the south in southwest Florida, moving northward from Naples on up toward Port Charlotte, and then heading up over toward Tampa, St. Pete. So pretty busy radar. This is a fairly impressive system here from the looks of it on the upper atmosphere, and it's going to continue to spread severe weather into the south tomorrow. Here's the Storm Prediction Center's map for Friday into Saturday morning. So this is 12Z Friday to 12Z Saturday, and when I saw this morning, I mentioned the last couple of days thinking that they would push that marginal risk line up at least to about New York City, which is what they did. So maybe they heard me. I don't know. No, they didn't. But indeed, we've got marginal risk extending up toward about New York City, northern Pennsylvania. I would tend to think that if there are going to be cells in this marginal risk, they would be, fairly isolated in nature. And then you start to see the slight risk and the enhanced risk, Southern Virginia down through much of North and South Carolina, the southeastern half of Georgia. You get into northern Florida, and then, of course, the risk drops off as you move further south through Florida to a marginal risk down in the southernmost part of the state. So busy day coming up for tomorrow as well. Just want to, let's come back. I want to go, I'm kind of a little disorganized tonight. I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to approach this, because we got the severe weather done front and center, but I want you to take a look at what's happening for those of you who are in my zone, Eastern PA, New Jersey, Long Island, New York City, Connecticut, Hudson Valley. The warm front. We talked about this yesterday, that this warm front was going to come up and that we would see clouds probably from central Jersey or North Jersey northward and eastward, which is indeed what we saw up until about an hour or two ago. And during this morning, as that warm front pushed northward, it broke out wide open into sunshine across the southern half of New Jersey and throughout much of southeast and south central Pennsylvania. And this warm front it's not fighting a strong onshore flow or a big high to the north. And this is all, by the way, we're undergoing the process here of setting the table up, setting up the atmosphere for the approaching front and the developing storm that's going to be moving up the Appalachians. Now, here's the surface plot from 5 o'clock this afternoon, and the warm front at that point was just about getting to New York City. In New Jersey, it looked like it was right along Route 78 and then kind of snuck into northeastern PA, and then it takes a sharp turn northward through New York State. The eastern part of New York State, you've got temperatures in the 50s with dew points in the 40s, jump to the other, and winds that are, by the way, from the southeast. On the other side of the warm front, you've got temperatures in the mid and upper 60s and dew points in the 50s. It's not the strongest warm front in the world, but there's a definite difference between the two air masses in play. East of the front, you're dealing with this high that is sitting off the coast. A little hard to see, but there it is. You can see the edge of it on the upper right, that 1030 pressure with the underline. The high is a 1030 high offshore, and that air is coming from that high pushing westward. And meanwhile, on the other side of the warm front, you've got this southwest flow. So the air from on the warm side in the warm sector coming up straight up the coast, down from the Gulf of Mexico and moving on northeastward up the Appalachians. And of course, now you take a look at what's happening in the Gulf states, in the central Gulf, and you have your low up in the central Arkansas. Looks like they've got it analyzed near Little Rock, and another one in southeast Louisiana. The squall line that is run out ahead of it, and this is going to eventually wind up in one low in the Southern Appalachians that's going to shoot up the Appalachians and move northward. The fact that this system is moving from south to north, essentially, is important because, unlike systems that have an easterly component to them, where your precip area is basically moving from west to east, here you're getting most of your precip running from moving south to north, making only incrementally small movements to the east over time. So what happens is, if you can't get underneath the rain with this when it sets up for tomorrow, you could wind up with quite a bit of it. But on the other hand, if you're outside that particular band, and if you look at the radar on the wide view, you'll notice that it's not really the widest area of rain from east to west. It's a fairly narrow north-south orientation. If you're not inside that rain band, then you could easily wind up with about half as much rain as somebody that spends time under it. So in terms of the forecast, this is very difficult because you have to kind of broad brush the area with a forecast of precip, and I've been saying on the order of about an inch or two, but it's hard to say who's going to wind up closer to the inch and who's going to wind up closer to the 2 inches, and it's quite possible that somebody gets into some of these heavier downpours that you could see much more than that. So here's your jet stream structure. The deep trough here, phase trough right in the middle, along or just west of 95 west. You've got strong ridges of high pressure on either side, and as we move eastward, the bottom of that trough just digs, and you get this wrapped up upper low moving eastward, and then it kind of stops moving eastward at this point. The northern part of the jet stream pulls out and lifts up. So at the same time, there's another short wave that's kind of swinging across through there, through southern Canada, southwestern Canada, west of Lake Winnipeg. So it kind of opens up this alleyway for this system to just lift up northward rather than continue kicking on to the east or going northeast. So the upper low lifts up along the Appalachians, and here we are Saturday morning. Now this is Saturday morning is probably where the system has reached its maximum intensity, and then after this it starts to fill, and it also stops lifting up. It just kind of sits there. You got this upper high east of Maine over the Canadian Maritimes. It's sort of building over the top. The northern part of the jet is getting deflected up north of James Bay, so this thing kind of gets trapped. And it weakens. The models seem to be a little bit further south with where it has the upper low for Easter Sunday, and also taking a little bit longer for it to weaken. So we will deal with what we will deal with weather-wise tomorrow and Saturday. And then on Sunday, as far as Easter Sunday is concerned, because you have this upper low in cold, unstable air in the upper atmosphere, you can't rule out the possibility of some clouds and maybe even some pop-up showers until that upper low gets out of the way. And again, it's very slow to do that. It finally gets kicked out later on Monday. Might actually even complicate the weather for Monday to a certain extent. But we'll deal with that when we get there. In the meantime, let's look at where this is all going surface-wise. And of course, here's your low. Your surface low by 2 a.m. is sitting in eastern Tennessee. You've got a strong southwest flow in the east, and the warm front now has pushed even further north up into central New England, the rain over Maine and into New Brunswick. So there should be no marine issue to speak of going forward, and we'll just watch to see how high the dew points get and how warm the temperatures get tomorrow. I think we could certainly get some breaks of sunshine to take temperatures well up into the 70s just inland of the coast. And now, here comes your low for Friday night and Saturday. The southern part of that trough with that wrapping cutoff, you get this surface low, this 93 low in eastern Tennessee. So everywhere east of there during tomorrow, you're going to see some severe weather across Georgia, South and North Carolina. The model, for whatever reason, kind of decreases it a little bit during the day tomorrow and then fires it up again tomorrow night as it reaches the North Carolina coast. We'll figure it out tomorrow when we get there. But in the meantime, you see that surface low just kind of takes its sweet time. By Saturday morning, it's sitting in southern Ohio. So you got this arm of rain now that comes into the east. So think during Friday night. This is Friday morning. For Johnny Quest, you'll be getting into your rain sometime tomorrow morning and into tomorrow afternoon and evening with some heavy downpours as your surface low begins to strengthen. And now as we move into my neck of the woods, probably late afternoon or evening, we'll see some lead showers and downpours coming into eastern Pennsylvania and western New Jersey, and then overnight for areas to the east. East of the Hudson in the Hudson Valley, southern New England, Long Island, where I think the bulk of the rain is really going to be Saturday morning into early afternoon. And look how narrow that stick of rain is at this point, up and down the East Coast with that wrapped up low, almost vertical, by the way, with the upper low. That's another thing with this system, and you see this happens in the spring more often than not. When you get these wrapped up upper lows, the surface low is almost right underneath the upper low itself, instead of being part of a short wave that is extended out to the east of where the actual upper low center is. So you bodily have to wait for the whole thing to get out of the way, and you're still under the influence of this weakening low pressure for Sunday. And because of the upper trough still maintaining a certain degree of identity, you've got this cold pool that's off the coast Monday, and there's still some showers that are being generated by that before it finally runs away and goes out to the east as we move into Tuesday. By the way, not to neglect the rest of the country, but we do have a system coming into the northwest with some rains and snows for the Rockies come Easter Sunday. Nothing especially heavy here. And when we look at Easter Sunday weather, most of the country is probably going to be okay. There's some action going on in the Rockies, and we got the leftover action in parts of the Northeast with the upper low. But the rest of the Gulf states, it doesn't look like there'll be a whole lot of severe weather to worry about actually, even from Saturday. Much of the severe weather threat's going to be up until Saturday morning, and then it might be done after that, and then nothing for the rest of the day that I can see as far as severe weather is concerned. So we're really going through all of the severe weather stuff tonight, and then during the day tomorrow into tomorrow night, and then after that, it's just a matter of waiting for this mess to get out of the way. The other thing you should note in this, which makes it maybe a little bit different than what we're used to seeing, because of the upper low diving so far south, and you see it there, it is obvious. It is also impacting the temperature profiles, and we'll put the temps here. Now, of course, you see warm air coming up on the plains, which makes sense. But if it's you watch the cool pool of air, it might be better if we use the anomaly maybe instead. But here's the this is Wednesday, so here we are for Friday. That large area of below normal temperatures tonight into Friday morning from the Great Lakes down into Texas and Louisiana. That's the air that's being swept down and then east and then northeast around the circulation of that upper low. So here's the profile for Friday afternoon. East of the Appalachians, all above normal to well above normal. West of the Appalachians, all below normal or well below normal. And then going into Saturday, you're waiting now for the storm to that cold front. If you look at where the zero line is, that patch of white between the above and below normal, that's kind of like, that's really your front that lifts up, and you eventually get that drier air to come in and kick this system far enough east so that weather conditions try to improve, but you're still going to have that pool of colder air hanging around in the east for Sunday, at least aloft for Easter Sunday, which will produce some scattered showers. But the dew points probably show up a bit better here. And let's take this map. So we look at the dew points so we could get a feel for the relative moisture, the amount of moisture in the air or lack of moisture in the air. And of course, this afternoon, saturated dew points in the Gulf states are severe weather. The warm dew points now, if you want to follow your warm front, the green dew points in the upper 40s, and then you get into the yellows, dew points in the mid to upper 50s. Big dew point jump when the warm front goes by, and then we start to get into Friday afternoon, your 60s, mid and upper 60 dew points going up into northern Virginia, dew points in the low 60s up to about New York City and northeastern Pennsylvania. And notice out in the Great Lakes, the Mississippi Valley, the very dry air that moves southward down to Texas and Louisiana. That's what we're seeing tonight. And then it moves eastward across the Gulf states and then lifts up northeastward. It's basically just rotating, wrapping itself around that upper low, bringing in the dry air. It moves down to the south, then moves across the south, and then turns northeastward, so that by Saturday afternoon, Saturday morning dew point in New York City, for example, on the GFS here is 62. By 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's down to 55. By Saturday evening, it's down to 43. Okay, so there's your that shuts the precip off and brings an end to all of this. And then we've got dew points all day long on Sunday in the 40s with temperatures in the 60s. You'll probably get, I think we're going to see some breaks of sun before clouds start to bubble up. By the way, for you snow lovers with a strong upper low, you might notice that here Sunday morning you've got temperatures down in the low 30s, patches of temperatures in the low 30s from just south and east of Chicago, running down through southern Indiana, and even a few little blue patches down into northern Tennessee and western North Carolina. So that's due to the upper low. I believe, Johnny Quest, you asked me, was it yesterday or the day before, with regards to whether there might be some snow with this. And because of where the upper low is positioned, actually the NAM does show some snow for central Indiana down into central Kentucky and in Tennessee near Nashville. Now, I don't know how much of that is actually going to reach the ground. It's certainly not going to accumulate. But I suppose that because of the very, very cold air, the nature of the very, very cold air aloft and what's going on, that, you get some dynamic cooling. Wouldn't be a shocker to see some wet snowflakes mixing in the precip there in that area from southern Indiana, central Kentucky, into northern Tennessee. Then the low, of course, is gone, and we head our way into next week. The rainfall totals will go to WPC's map, which now at this point is going to include a system for the middle part of next week, but at least in the east, most of what you see here is going to be from what's going on now. But there we go. So you notice how it's changed since yesterday. You've got that band of heavy rain from Ohio up through north of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, and then running just north of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, into northern Maine. If we go back and look at the radar, that's where your arc of rain is. So there's where the SPC's got that one spot for heavy rain. Inch and a half to inch and a quarter, inch and a half rain amounts for much of my area, some pockets of 2 inch plus. This is going to be interesting to see how that plays, because some models actually are, showing these bands where some areas get 2 inches and some areas get a half an inch. And then you've got the heavy rains for eastern North Carolina. I think that would make sense, given what the models are showing. And also some heavy rains, and much of this is going on now through Mississippi and into Georgia. We'll bring up the NAM's rainfall map. You see the streaky nature here? You got these streaks of 2 inch plus rains. So this covers you through the whole event. We'll get real tight here. Notice how streaky it is. 2 inches, and then you got less than half an inch. And then you go to 2 inches again, and then you got less than half an inch. And then you go to 2 inches again. This is probably how it's going to happen. If you get these bands, whoever gets into those bands where they hit their target, you're going to wind up with up to 2 inches of rain. If you happen to be in a spot that's in between, you're going to get a whole lot less. So you may come away from all of this thinking, well, it was supposed to be all this rain and it didn't happen. This is why the nature of this system with the upper low where it is, and the fact that it's lifting northward and not moving northeastward, swinging across the entire geography of the northern mid-Atlantic and the northeast, we're just going to get whatever comes up in that southerly flow. So if it lines up where you are, you're going to get hit with some heavy rains. If it doesn't, you're going to wind up with a lot less. On this particular run, Mr. Quest, you were kind of lined up for the 2 inch plus. For my Long Island folks, Nassau and West Suffolk, yes. Small part of Central Suffolk, no. And then yes again for the East End. The bottom line is, who knows? You're not going to really know where these streaks set up until you actually see them on the radar themselves when the event is underway. So we will we'll wait till we get there. And real quick on the long range, and let's bring that up to the top. I'll switch the GFS. I actually didn't. I only kind of gave it a quick look today with regards to the upper air. We just seem to be in this springtime mode. By the way, for those of you who are in my area, I don't know if I mentioned this yesterday, but so far this month, for much of at least northern New Jersey, southeastern New York, and Long Island, the temperatures are running about 2.5 to 3 degrees above average. Okay, so if you are, if you were in the camp waiting for an extended winter, it obviously is not happening this year. We're having a fairly typical month of April. And a few people have commented to me and saying, well, it doesn't feel like it hasn't been warm. Well, yeah, because we do get days this time of year where you're going to wind up with an onshore flow and temperatures that have a tough time getting out of the 40s. That's a double-digit below normal type of day now. When you then on the other hand, you put it on the other side, and we've had days with temperatures up in the 70s, and some spots like today hitting the 80-degree mark. So this is as about as typical in April as you're ever going to get. All right, so running through the upper air, the jet gradually weakens. The amplitude in the jet that we saw for much of the last 10 days finally disappears, and we kind of go to this sort of flat west to east flow. The stronger and colder part of the jet is well up into Canada at this point as we go through next week. And a bit of a ridge pops up there toward the last couple of days of the month, if it's to be believed. The trough going to the west, we shall see. And then after that, a little bit of trophy action and cutoff lows as we start to move into the first days of May. Cutoff lows are not fun. If you're in the wrong place, you could be cloudy and wet for days. We don't like cutoff lows, okay? And if only from the standpoint that who wants endless days of dreary weather? Because I sure don't. Okay, on the board here with everybody, nice crowd, and with everybody here from Johnny Quest to Scott Briller. Happy birthday to your mom. Happy birthday to your mom. Is she the same? I'm sorry, you did mention before. I'm just seeing 84 is not a nice interstate in Connecticut, says Mark G. Scott Olson, Alfred, I'll drink a cup of warm tea for you. Alfred being up in Wainwright, Alaska on the north coast there. Will it be rain all the way up to Caribou? I think so. I think it is. Hang on. Rolling the map back. Yep. Even Caribou gets all rain out of this. The warm front actually gets pretty far north up into Maine. It may or may not make it through Caribou, but it gets awfully close. So yes, their snow's going to be gone soon. So their streak it has to come to an end eventually. It's not going to be here for too much longer. I haven't heard the National Weather Service, Anthony Orr, confirming any tornadoes in Maryland. I know the EF2 touched down in Delaware Sunday night. Did NWS confirm any tornadoes in Maryland? Asking John. I also have not. I did not see. There was apparently one confirmed in upstate New York Sunday night in Broome County, thanks to Chuck Cardillo, who letting me know about this this morning. And the tornado warnings were definitely out, as John points out, for Frederick and Carroll counties up down in Maryland during Sunday night. But I didn't see anything as far as a confirmed tornado either. Tornado warning in southeastern Jackson County and southern Mississippi until 7:15, says Anthony Orr. Okay, let's take a look at that. And all right, so hang on. I'm going to try to bring up. I got the Jackson. I believe that's the No, it's not the Jackson radar. Go up one. All right, so let's see what the Weather Service is doing there. Yes, I do. They do. It's a very, very small portion of the county in southeasternmost Mississippi, which is in southeastern Jackson County. So for those of you who don't know exactly where that is, I can actually show you on the radar. This is as of 8:04 Eastern Time, 7:04. But take a look at the radar here in the lower right corner. You see that little red box? That's the tornado warning that was issued. That was just issued in that small portion there in southeastern Mississippi in Jackson County. Again, if you're watching this on a replay, this is 8:05 Eastern Time, 7:05 Central. So if you're watching this overnight, this was from earlier in the day. Remember, you want to check your local radars and for any watches and warnings that are going on by going to your local National Weather Service office page, and you can access that by going to weather.gov. All right. When I worked in New Orleans, did I ever witness a tornado? No, I've seen funnels. I've never seen a tornado actually touch the ground. And no, while I was there, I did see some incredible thunderstorms while I spent my 3 years there. That was from November of '83 to November of through November of '86. I never actually did see a tornado that touched down. Did see a couple of funnel clouds, but that was it. And Michael Azara, today in 2002, the record temp for April 96 in New York City. Hard to believe it can get. Yeah, and that also goes back to Scott Briller pointed that out to me yesterday. That for April 16th, it was 96, was also back in 1976, which was on Easter Sunday. And I remember that because that was a time when a lot of people did not have air conditioning. Certainly very few people had central air. And if you had an air conditioner at home, you basically had a window unit, and most people couldn't afford to have an air conditioner except maybe in a bedroom, and that was it. So I can remember that Easter Sunday was maybe one of the few times that my mother had to turn the oven on to cook, but really didn't want to because it was so brutally hot. And I also, as I recall, that may have also been the highest temperature that we saw for the entire summer season. I don't think it ever got to 96 again. So that April temperature, I believe, stood as the highest temperature for that particular calendar year. All right. Time to go. So thanks very much for being here, folks. I really appreciate it. Linda Hernandez, bad weather expected in Southern Virginia tomorrow and tomorrow night. Absolutely. With the severe weather risk that is up all the way up into slight risk up to northeastern Virginia, and an enhanced risk that extends up into Southern Virginia and in through North Carolina, as per the Storm Prediction Center. I'll give everybody one last look at this. This is for tomorrow. SPC's map. There it is. We'll bring it up to the top. So one more time. Here's your risk area from SPC for Storm Prediction Center for tomorrow. Up and down the East Coast. Marginal risks to just south of New York City. Slight risk to about Baltimore. And then you've got enhanced risk basically from Richmond south through much of North and South Carolina, and at least half of Georgia if you cut the state on a diagonal down into northern Florida. So we've got another busy night of severe weather ahead for tonight, and I think we're going to have a pretty busy severe weather day coming up on Friday as this storm system moves into the east. All right, folks. I know sometimes, by the way, I do do say that we're going to do the Joe and Joe show, and on some nights we start with the idea of doing it, and something occasionally does get in the way. So if I say we're going to do it, and it turns out that we don't, there's usually a pretty good reason that it doesn't happen. And that's, yesterday I did say that we were going to do it, and then we both got kind of caught up in doing a few other things, and before we knew it, We just didn't have time. So we'll try to do one tonight. And if we do succeed, it will be at 9:25 Eastern Time on my Facebook page, Meteorologist Joe Chaffee. And if you don't have Facebook, not to worry, because I do upload the show to YouTube, and I try to get it done before 10 o'clock Eastern Time. So in the event that we do the show and you can't see it, I will put it up there. Let me just say really quick to everybody, because I know with the holidays, starting with Passover tomorrow night, and then for Saturday, the Easter Vigil, and Sunday, Easter Sunday, many of you will be doing all sorts of things. You might be on the road. You may be having family over. You may not have your weather live streams front and center. I totally get that. So I just want to wish those of you who are celebrating Passover a very happy and healthy Passover to you and your families. And for those of you who are celebrating Easter, also a very happy and joyous Easter to you. Some folks may be celebrating both, in which case both a happy Passover and a happy Easter. And I will be here tomorrow, so we'll try and do a live stream tomorrow night, and then I'll let you know what my plans are for the weekend. Have a great evening, everybody. Please be safe, and we will see you